we are going to discuss about the biogeographical regions. Biogeographical regions are the regions in which there are patterns of different biogeography, and these are normally based on the different continental regions. On a piece of land, there will be cohesion between the different species. They will be intermingling with each other, and there is no geographical separation on a same continent. But when the organisms are divided by division of the continents, what happens that different continents will have different forms of life. Their species will be changing. So on the basis of that geographical division, there is some division among the organisms as well, because on each continent the organisms developed differently. So first of all, there was Candolle in 1820 and Engler in 1879. They used the patterns of distribution of flowering plants to define the geographical regions. So in their studies, they were using the plants which are sessile, they cannot move, and they are spreading. The angiosperms are very efficient in spreading, but still these regions were defined mainly on the basis of plants. And then comes the Sclater in 1858. He was working on birds, and Wallace in 1860 to 1876 working on mammals, and they used and defined the system of zoogeographical region. So they worked on the zoogeography, how the animals are divided across the land. So here you can see the zoogeographical region according to the Sclater and Wallace. There is Nearctic, Neotropical, African, Oriental, Australian, and Palearctic. So these are some of the definitions, and you can see that Nearctic is North America, Neotropical is South America, African is Sub-Saharan Africa, and Oriental is based on the India, Pakistan, Thailand, and all the Cambodia, Vietnam. And then there is the Australian, which is the Australia, New Zealand, and all the related neighboring countries as well. So you can see that it is and Palearctic, which is containing Russia, China, and all the northern Asia and Europe. So all of these regions, these are mainly based on the geography, but they were conveying some useful information. And the zoogeographical regional map that we use today, you can see that in the next slide. So here, this is the North America, South America, African. So you see that in the first we were discussing that this is the dispersal of the mammals in this map, and you can see that African is not only the sub-Saharan African but whole Africa. And the Australian, there is some division which is different from the earlier map, Australian and Oriental division from the earlier map, which is different from there. So between the Australian and Oriental, the organisms are sort of transitioning between these, and there are a lot of archipelagos or the islands in between. So we were discussing about the zoogeography, but in the zoogeography there is a particular thing that we can do, is that we can focus our studies to mammal biogeography. We can trace the history of continent-based mammal fauna through time, and we can relate their histories to the movement of continents. So we can see that how the movement of continents are related to their histories based on their continents, and how the dispersal of fauna are grouped from one continent to another permitted. For example, at some point Gondwana, that large continent, it divided into different small continent, and sometimes it again met with those continents. For example, India was part of the Africa, but it separated from it, and it took a journey towards the northeast, and it was moving towards the northeast, and it met with the Tibet. Now it took all those species with it and transferred those species to the Palearctic region, or the Tibet, or the Asia, right? So how this happens and how the mammals can play a role in it, we will be discussing about that. So in here you can see the distribution of terrestrial mammals during the late Cenozoic, which is Miocene to the Pliocene. And here you can see the different mammals, including rodents, insectivores, brachydactyls, artiodactyls, primates, pangolins, cones, and elephant shrews, aardvarks, edentates, marsupials, and monotremes. So where these are present, you would see a cross, and where these are not present, you won't see any cross there. So you can see, for example, the marsupials, these are present only in the South America and Australia, and monotremes are only present in Australia, and so are the other things. You can see the total number of orders that we can see in each of these biogeographical region during the late Cenozoic and Miocene and Pliocene, and the total number of terrestrial families that we can find there today, right? So these are the things that we can see, that how different distribution of terrestrial mammals was present during the late Cenozoic. So the possibilities for mammals to disperse between the different continents varied in the past due to changes in the position of continents. So if the continent is changing, the possibility of the mammals moving from one place to another will change. If there is a terrestrial route between the two continents, if there is a bridge, a land bridge, it would be much easier for the mammals to pass through these, because mammals, the continental mammals at least, cannot swim. And in the climate, or owing to the rise or withdrawal of the shallow seas that form time to time and subdivided the continents. So sometimes what happens, that the continents are divided by the shallow seas, right? So if shallow seas are, if water seeps out, what happens, that there is some terrestrial environment in which the mammals can walk from one continent to another, and sometimes it is not possible for them. So based on this, this is how the mammals can go from one continent to another. And here you can see the Venn diagram showing the interrelationship of the families of terrestrial mammal of 6 geographical regions today, excluding the 11 wandering families. 11 wandering families that could be found everywhere, and we cannot say that these are indigenous to one particular region. So Oriental 4, South American 15, Eurasian, African, Australian, Oriental, and North American. And you can see that South American and North American, these are sort of sharing 5, Eurasian and North American 3, Oriental and Eurasian are not sharing anyone, but Oriental and North American, they are sharing 1. And African are sharing with the 3 continents, which are Eurasian, Oriental, and not with the Australian, but they are sharing the Oriental and Eurasian only. So you can see that the geographically these were at some point related. If they are sharing some families, they would have been sharing of their geographical areas as well. For example, North America and Eurasia, that was some part of it was joined, and of course we know that North America and South America is joined together today through the Panama Isthmus. So here you can see another Venn diagram showing the interrelationships of families of terrestrial mammals of the continents at the end of Miocene, excluding 11 wandering families. So again you can see that much more relations between the African, Eurasian, and Oriental and North America. The South American and Australian, these were far off and separated parts, so they are not sharing as much families. We can see that there were different mammals, and they are living in different regions, and they have their own biogeographical areas in which they have found their niches, and they are living there. Eisenberg, a scientist, has made an interesting analysis of the extent to which the different ecological niches have been filled in the different mammalian biogeographical regions. So essentially he has said that whatever the biological niches are there, the mammalian species in a particular region, they have filled each of their niches in there.